Here at Daniel, we cook a lot. That's what I love is the adrenaline of service. You have the pressure of putting 3 different or 4 different dishes next to each other with different components, different preparation, different cuisson, and all have to go together at the same time. Restaurant Daniel, we always felt that we are part of the elite of restaurant in New York. We don't try to be trendy at Daniel, but we really try to be current. I love it. I mean, it's my life. For a little farm boy that came with nothing in America, I'm happy.
We have the crayfish coming twice a week for Daniel. We receive 60 pounds twice a week. It's coming from Parish, Madison, New Orleans. So we're going to poach them in a court bouillon for about 1 minute.
I am driven by French cuisine, but always a way to update the classic. Like, for example, a halibut dish today, sauce nantua with the crayfish. We have never done this type of preparation, but we know how to make sauce nantua. We know how to treat crayfish.
Every season, every year, we always have a crayfish on the menu. A lot of times it comes with a rabbit. This time it's coming with we do with our halibut. So we always do a team effort because it's 60 pounds twice a week, quite a lot of work. The warmer they are, the better they come out of the shell. All the trimmings of the crayfish will go into the marmalade. We choose all the nicest ones to present to the guests.
I grew up in Lyon. It's next to Les Dombes, north of Lyon. And that's the region where you have crayfish and frog legs.
I fell in love with cooking, so I went to an apprenticeship. I worked 6 days a week at 14, and that's how I met all the greatest chefs of Lyon. I think it was a time where it was hard work, but I never complained. It was a lot to learn, a lot to learn.
So here I'm washing the watercress. So this is like back to my youth. Nothing changed. So this watercress goes in the preparation of the halibut. The crayfish, the sauce nantua, the watercress, it was all growing in Lyon. It's in the same swamp. At 14, when I started cooking, for the first 3 months, I was in charge of the 2 sinks that prep all the vegetables. And they used to call me the beaver because I was always in the water.
So I'm going to start the process of the bisque because it's going to take 2 hours. Fennel, carrot, onion, shallots, celery, a little bit of ginger, a little bit of tomato coulis and tomato paste, and then we finish with chicken stock, thyme, bay leaves. Add about 20 pounds of butter, and then the process is going to clarify and create the crayfish butter.
Not too much butter. If the cows would have known that their butters would have ended up in the crayfish stock, I think that would have made them happy. French cooking, we think it's all butter. Forget about it. When you look at the Italian, how much butter, cream, and cheese they put in the pasta, it's scary.
So it's a halibut. We just turn on the crayfish butter we did this morning. So we have inside some watercress leaf, the mushroom in the white chimichurri, and we glaze with bisque. With the watercress puree. And just there.
Halibut dish today, sauce nantua with the crayfish. Always think that the dish will have to pair well with a very good wine. An example of one dish, but every dish have its raison d'être.
So first thing we're going to do is make the Canelés batter for our giveaways.
The Canelés, so it's also a classic French. They can go home to share that with the kids. A token of a thank you and good night.
So I'm going to slowly add the hot milk into the yolks so they don't scramble. So now that it's mostly in, we're going to dump the rest. So I'm going to add the rum last, at the very end. It's just some dark rum. Lots of it.
The best part is the rum in the Canelés. Up.
Only the best.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It disappears. It really gives the character. I always pay a lot of attention on pastry. I am not a pastry chef, but I know a lot about pastry. And so I have no problem sitting down with my pastry chef and discussing creativity, discussing new ideas, and really developing things.
So then we put in the cannelé batter, and that they're obviously all the same height, so they bake evenly, and then they're all the same at the end. Chef Daniel, he knows what works and what doesn't work. He has really high standards, and he wants everyone to keep those standards. So next we're going to put them into a 400-degree oven or so for almost an hour. They're going to bake. These are the finished cannelé, and once they're cool enough to touch, we'll unmold them for service. And then we just pop the molds off. And they're going to get super dark on the outside, caramelized. Front of house, closer to service, we'll bag them into little baggies and then off to the guests.
So we're starting the prep for the lamb saddle dish. Right now Munu is taking out the tenderloin. That is going to be the center part of our roulade. And then we're going to score it and use a jacquard to really make the piece nice and tender. I started here as a line cook, and then I got promoted throughout the years as a tournant and then CDC. It's very rewarding to be able to work here.
I mean, I've been mentoring cooks since my days at the Plaza Athénée and Le Cire. It's something very good because this continuing education for young chefs in America is very important. My only piece of advice when you start a career is to choose a very good mentor and to continue to lean on his recommendation to move on with life.
So we're seasoning salt, pepper, the bellies. So this is the first one that made with all the belly scraps and the loin scraps that we made. We have a mousse, we have ground meat, we have Asiago, savory, parsley, black garlic, piquillo peppers, and pencil asparagus as well.
So the black garlic dry and powdered, and then it's much easier to, you could do a paste also for that matter, but we prefer to treat it like this. The technique is to be able to keep as much as possible the shape of the roast together. And what's important is to keep it firm, but not to squeeze. I think what matters for me is that when you do a roast, the first slice is as important as the last. It's important to keep the roast tight together. I was an apprentice next to the market, to the major hall, which is the central market. I was bumping in the market with people like Paul Bocuse and Alain Chapelle and Trois Gros and all my mentors. I always was close to them and inspired by what they did. I was 15 years old. I served my first president. You feel like, whoa, you're really mingling with the top, a path that you followed. And for me, it was always that. We are roasting the outside of the lamb gently. I like to use the corner of the pan to just evenly roast it. There's some garlic, there's some thyme to give some flavor.
And we're just using a ring mold. It's just flipped upside down, a ring of puree. It is a green asparagus marmalade. So green asparagus has been brunoise, and we have our asparagus tips. The stem goes into the marmalade, sweated down with some shallot, garlic, egos, a little bit of white wine. So this is the lamb fat that was rendered this morning, infused with a savory oil, glazed around. The crust around is a mustard and a black garlic panko. Finally, the jus.
And this is really a dish that speaks spring. Superb dish.
We just received the scallops from Maine. You can see they're super fresh. So that's the first step of the scallop dish. Then after we will coat it with a light layer of kataif, pan-seared on one side, slowly baked, and then you will see the process of the sauce and the garnish after.
So I'm going to make the morel sauce for the scallop, the main scallop dish.
French cooking, it's all about the sauce. Sometimes the sauce is 50% of the dish in French cooking.
Starts off with sliced shallots. The sous chef will come in a bit earlier, obviously, make all the sauces, do all the big jobs for the cooks before they come in. Danielle's really nice to work with as well. A lot of energy, a lot of passion with him as well. Once the shallots are nice and soft, you go in with the dried morel, which are here. We hydrate them in just mushroom stock. Add the vermouth, add the stock, reduce the stock right down so it's a nice saucy consistency. And then creme fraiche, blend, and then ready for service. So this is the last stage of the scallop. It's been shucked, washed, dried, and now Fabian, he's on the hot app station. He's going to finish it off. He's going to dunk it in liquid egg white, which has been lightly whisked. and he's going to dunk it from there into the katafi. Katafi is shredded phyllo, so it's like a crumb, just so when you caramelize it, it's a nice even crust. We do it every day. So if we have 60 covers, we do 30 portions of scallops. He's put it all in the katafi now. He's covered it with a tray. He's just lightly pressing it, just so all the katafi coats the bottom, or the top rather, and it's a nice even. So any residual katafi falls off, so when it's in the tray, it's nice and even. And once it's finished, it's ready to pan fry. We pan fry the scallop in clarified butter. Not too hot, you don't want to burn the katafi. Love of butter, crushed garlic, and fresh thyme in there. With a lightly golden color. So once it's nice and golden like this, flip it over, roll the butter around a bit, put it in the oven, 40 seconds to a minute.
What I love is buttered cabbage and seafood sometimes. It's delicious with lobster, with scallops, the delicate texture of a seafood with cabbage, and yet we try to create a crispiness to it. What I like is the contrast of texture and the lightness of the garnish for the scallops. The biggest compliment when a guest comes to Daniel is that they remember the name of everyone who served them. And I think this sense of hospitality for us is the most important. The heritage we have about food in New York. And I only see the future being based on the past. Just like fashion, just like art, just like music, it is important to study the past in order to create the future. And I think New York City has always been about that.
Hey! Look at that! It's Congratulations!